The sun burned red over Krathos Prime. The planet was known across the galaxy as a place where warriors were born. It was a world of hard rock and harder lessons. The Vorthan Academy stood on the highest mountain, its black walls reaching toward the sky like fingers of stone. This was where the best soldiers from every corner of space came to learn the art of war. Kate Morrison walked through the training grounds with her head held high. She was human, and that made her different from almost everyone else here. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only learned to travel between stars 20 years ago. Most aliens thought humans were weak. They thought humans cried too much and cared too much. They thought humans would never make good soldiers. Kate had heard it all before. She heard it in the mess hall when the Drakthar soldiers made jokes about her soft skin. She heard it during combat drills when the Chiton warriors clicked their mouths in disapproval. She even heard it from some of the instructors who seemed to think humans had no place at the academy. But Kate did not quit. She woke up before dawn every day. She ran longer than the others. She trained harder. She studied the tactics and the history until her eyes burned. She knew she had to be twice as good just to be seen as half as worthy. Today was different. Today the Academy announced the survival exercise. Every cadet had to spend a week in the Crimson Wastes, a deadly wilderness filled with creatures that could tear through armor like paper. The goal was simple but brutal. Walk 100 kilometers through hell and reach the pickup point. Do it without dying. Kate stood in formation as Commander Vrex assigned the squads. Vrex was a Drakthar, tall and covered in black scales that looked like armor. His eyes glowed orange like hot coals. When he looked at Kate, she could see the doubt in his gaze. He did not think she would make it. She was assigned to Squad 7 under Vrex's command. He made it clear from the start that he did not want her. He gave her all the worst jobs. She had to carry extra water. She had to take the night watch shifts when everyone else slept. She had to walk point through the most dangerous areas, checking for threats while the others stayed safe behind her. Kate did not complain. She just did the work. On the third day, they were moving through a narrow canyon. The walls rose high on both sides, blocking out the sun. The air was hot and still. Kate walked ahead of the group, scanning for danger. Her boots crunched on the red sand. Sweat ran down her back under her pack. That was when she heard it, a sound that did not belong. A low whimper like something in pain. Kate stopped. Her training told her to keep moving. The mission came first. Always. But something made her turn toward the sound. She found it behind a pile of rocks. A razorback cub. The creature was young but already massive, easily the size of a bear from Earth. Its fur was thick and dark, and its teeth were sharp as knives. But right now it was not dangerous. It was hurt. The cub's leg was caught in a metal trap. The teeth of the trap had bitten deep into flesh and bone. Blood pooled in the sand beneath it. The cub tried to pull free but only made the wound worse. When it saw Kate, it snarled and snapped its jaws. The message was clear. Stay back or die. Kate knew what she should do. Walk away. A razorback was a predator. Even as a cub, it could kill her with one swipe of its claws. And if she wasted time here, she would fall behind the squad. Vrex would not wait for her. She could fail the exercise. She could be thrown out of the academy. But when she looked into the cub's eyes, she saw something that made her chest tight. Fear. Pain. The same feelings she had seen in the mirror on bad days when she thought about giving up. The same feelings every living thing knows when it is hurt and alone. Kate dropped her pack. She pulled out her medical kit. Then she knelt in the sand beside the wounded predator. The cub lunged at her. Its teeth snapped inches from her face. Kate did not flinch. She spoke in a low, calm voice. The words did not matter. The cub could not understand human language. But tone mattered. Calm mattered. She had learned that growing up with dogs on Earth. Animals understood feelings even when they did not understand words. She kept talking as she slowly reached for the trap. The cub watched her with wide eyes. It growled but did not snap again. Kate examined the wound. It was bad. The trap had cut through muscle down to the bone. If she did nothing, infection would set in. The cub would die slowly and in pain. Kate worked quickly. First, she pried open the trap. The metal was strong and her hand shook from the effort. The cub cried out when the trap released, a sound that made Kate's heart hurt. She pulled the trap away and tossed it aside. Then came the hard part. She poured antiseptic on the wound. The cub thrashed and tried to pull away, but Kate held firm. She cleaned the torn flesh as gently as she could. Blood covered her hands. The smell of it was thick in the hot air. Next, she had to stitch. She threaded the needle with steady hands even though inside she was shaking. This was not like practicing on training dummies. This was real. One wrong move and the cub might attack. One mistake and the wound might not heal. She pushed the needle through skin and muscle. The cub whimpered but stayed still. Kate stitched slowly, carefully, making sure each stitch was tight and clean. It took a long time. The sun moved across the sky. Sweat dripped into her eyes. Her back ached from kneeling. But she did not stop. Finally, she tied off the last stitch. She wrapped the wound in clean bandages from her kit. The cub watched her the whole time. Its growling had stopped. Now it just stared at her with those intelligent eyes. When Kate stood up, her legs were stiff and her hands were covered in blood. She packed up her medical kit. The cub got to its feet slowly. It tested the injured leg. The bandage held. The cub took a step, then another. It limped, but it could walk. The cub turned back to look at Kate one more time. It made a sound deep in its chest, not a growl, but something softer, almost like a thank you. Then it limped away into the rocks and was gone. Kate picked up her pack. She was about to start walking when she heard boots on stone. She turned and froze. Instructor Garn stood 20 meters away. He had been watching. The massive Vorthan officer was a legend at the academy. He had fought in more battles than Kate could count. His face was covered in scars. His eyes were hard as stone. Kate's heart sank. She had broken protocol. She had put the mission at risk. She had wasted time and supplies on an animal. Garn would probably fail her right here. Her time at the academy was over. But Instructor Garn did something Kate never expected. He came to attention. His back went straight. His hand came up in a crisp military salute. Instructors never saluted cadets, never. It was not done. But Garn held the salute, his eyes locked on Kate. Then he spoke. His voice was deep and rough like grinding rocks. That, Cadet Morrison, is what separates a warrior from a soldier. A soldier follows orders. A warrior understands what is worth fighting for. You have my respect. He dropped the salute and walked away without another word. Kate stood there in the canyon, alone with the blood on her hands and the weight of those words in her heart. She did not fully understand what had just happened, but something had changed, not just in how others saw her, but in how she saw herself. She shouldered her pack and started walking. She had 100 kilometers to go, but for the first time since arriving at the academy, she felt like she belonged. News traveled fast at the academy. By the time Kate made it back to base camp, everyone had heard the story. The human cadet had stopped during a survival exercise to help an injured predator. She had stitched up a razorback cub with her own hands, and Instructor Garn had saluted her. The reactions were mixed. Some cadets thought Kate was insane. Commander Vrex was furious. He called her reckless and said she had put the entire squad at risk. He told her that soldiers who care too much get people killed. He said humans would never understand what it takes to be a true warrior. But others looked at Kate differently now. They whispered in the hallways. They watched her during training. Some of them started to ask themselves questions they had never asked before. What did it mean to be strong? What did it mean to be a warrior? One evening, Kate sat alone in the mess hall. She was tired. The survival exercise had drained her, and the weight of everyone's attention felt heavy. She ate her meal in silence, trying to ignore the stares from the other tables. Then someone sat down across from her. Kate looked up and saw Zara, a Chiton soldier. Zara was known for being cold and efficient. She never wasted time on conversation. She never showed emotion. Her kind came from hive worlds where individual feelings meant nothing. Only the mission mattered. Zara's mandibles clicked as she spoke. I have been thinking about what you did. In my hive, we would have left the creature to die. Resources are precious. Sentiment is weakness. But Instructor Garn saluted you. That means something. Kate set down her fork. She was not sure what to say. Zara had never spoken to her before except to give orders during training. Why did you do it? Zara asked. The cub could have killed you. You could have failed the exercise. What did you gain? Kate thought about the question. She thought about the cub's eyes and the fear she had seen there. She thought about all the animals she had known on Earth, the dogs that guarded farms, the horses that carried people across mountains, the birds that sang in the morning. On Earth, she said slowly, Humans learned a long time ago that we are not alone. We share our world with other creatures. Some of them helped us survive. Some of them became our friends. We learned that strength is not just about being able to kill. It is also about being able to protect, about being able to care. Zara's mandibles clicked again. This time it sounded almost like curiosity. Your species is strange, but perhaps that is not a weakness. Over the next few weeks, Zara began spending more time with Kate. They trained together. They studied together. Zara asked endless questions about human culture and human philosophy. She wanted to understand how a species that seemed so soft had managed to reach the stars. Kate told her stories about Earth, about the wars humans had fought against each other and the peace they had finally built, about the way humans had learned to work together despite their differences, about how compassion had become a strength instead of a weakness. Zara listened to all of it. She did not agree with everything Kate said, but she listened, and slowly something changed in the way she saw the world. Then came the day the Academy announced the final evaluation. This was the test that would determine who graduated and who was sent home in shame. Each cadet would be placed in a leadership position. They would face a crisis scenario and have to make life or death decisions. The instructors would watch everything, every choice, every mistake. Kate was shocked when she saw her name on the list. She had been chosen to lead a squad. She would command 6 cadets from different species in a simulated hostage rescue mission. The scenario was brutal. Enemy forces had captured civilians and were holding them in a fortified building deep in hostile territory. Commander Vrex was furious when he heard. He protested to the instructors. He said humans could not be trusted to lead. He said Kate would get people killed. But the instructors did not change their decision. Kate would lead. That was final. The exercise began at dawn. Kate stood with her squad in the dropship as it descended toward the simulated combat zone. Her team included Zara, a young Drakther named Kyle, and 4 other cadets she barely knew. They were all watching her, waiting to see if she would fail. The dropship landed hard. The doors flew open and the squad poured out into smoke and noise. Simulated weapons fire filled the air. The buildings around them were riddled with holes. This was meant to look like a war zone, and it did. Kate pulled up the tactical display on her helmet. The mission briefing had said there were 20 enemy combatants and 5 hostages, but as she studied the readings, her stomach dropped. The intelligence was wrong. There were at least 40 enemies, maybe more, and the hostages were fitted with explosive collars. If the squad went in guns blazing, the hostages would die. Standard doctrine was clear. Overwhelming force. Hit hard and fast. Take out the enemy before they could react. But Kate knew that would not work here. The collars would detonate the moment shooting started. She needed a different plan. She made a decision that shocked her squad. "Hold position," she ordered. "Zara, you are the best at stealth. I need you to get inside that building without being seen. Find the hostages and disable those collars. The rest of us will create a distraction." Kyle stepped forward. His scales were dark green and his eyes glowed yellow. "With all respect, that is not how we do things. We should assault the building. That is what warriors do." Kate met his gaze. "And that is what will get the hostages killed. We are not here just to show how tough we are. We are here to save lives. That is the mission." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Zara nodded. "I will do it." Kate turned to the rest of the squad. "While Zara works, I am going to negotiate with the enemy commander. I am going to buy us time." Now Kyle looked horrified. "Negotiate? With enemies? That is madness. That is weakness." "No," Kate said firmly. "That is strategy. Watch and learn." She opened a communication channel to the enemy commander inside the building. This was part of the simulation. The commander was played by an instructor who would follow certain rules. Kate had studied those rules carefully. She knew what the commander could and could not do. She talked. She made offers. She asked questions. She dragged out the conversation as long as she could. The enemy commander grew frustrated, but he could not simply end the negotiation. That was against the rules of the simulation. Meanwhile, Zara moved like a shadow. She slipped through a broken window on the far side of the building. She crawled through ventilation shafts. She avoided patrols and cameras. It took her 20 minutes to reach the room where the hostages were held. The collars were sophisticated, but Zara was better. Her people had built technology for thousands of years. She knew circuits and wires like humans knew language. One by one, she disabled the collars. When the last one clicked off, she sent a signal to Kate. Kate smiled inside her helmet. Then she gave the order, "Go, go, go." The squad moved with precision. They breached the building from 3 sides at once. The enemy was caught off guard. They had been focused on Kate's negotiation and never saw the real attack coming. Within minutes, the simulation was over. The hostages were safe. The enemy was neutralized. 0 casualties. When the exercise ended, Kate and her squad stood in the debriefing room. The other cadets who had watched the scenario looked stunned. Kate had broken every rule. She had negotiated with the enemy. She had refused to use force. She had won through cunning instead of strength. General Corvin entered the room. He was ancient even for a Vorthan. His body was covered in scars from battles fought before most of the cadets were born. His presence commanded respect. When he spoke, everyone listened. For centuries, we have taught that victory belongs to the strong. We have taught that compassion is weakness and mercy is failure. But today, Cadet Morrison has shown us something different. She won not through strength alone, but through understanding. She saw the value in every life, even the lives of her enemies. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is leadership. He turned to face Kate directly. You have taught us all something today, Cadet. You have reminded us why we fight. Not for glory, not for power, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. In the crowd, Commander Vreck stood with his arms crossed. His face was unreadable, but something had shifted in his eyes. For the first time in his life, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, he had been wrong about humans. 6 months after graduation, Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn. She wore the uniform of a first lieutenant in the Coalition fleet. The silver bars on her collar felt heavy with responsibility. She had earned her place here, but she knew she still had much to prove. The Valiant Dawn was a heavy cruiser assigned to the 4th Fleet. Their mission was to patrol the frontier sectors, the wild edges of Coalition space where pirates and raiders preyed on civilian ships. It was dangerous work. Ships disappeared out here. Good people died. But someone had to stand watch. Captain Gideon Hart commanded the ship. He was human, one of the few who had made it to captain rank in the Coalition fleet. His hair was gray and his face was lined with the weight of hard decisions. He had fought for 30 years to prove that humans belonged among the stars. When Kate reported for duty, Captain Hart had given her simple advice. Out here, everything you learned at the academy matters. But you will also face things they never taught you. Trust your instincts, trust your team, and remember that every choice has consequences. Kate's first real assignment came 3 weeks into her deployment. Intelligence had received reports of a pirate outpost on an abandoned mining colony called Darkstone. The outpost belonged to the Bloodfang Cartel, a criminal organization that had been terrorizing the sector for years. The cartel was led by a Drakthar warlord named Kraxos. He was brutal and cunning. His forces had eluded capture for over a decade. He struck without warning and disappeared like smoke. Hundreds of people had died because of him. Captain Hart called Kate to his ready room. He stood looking out the viewport at the stars. When he turned to face her, his expression was serious. I am giving you command of the reconnaissance mission to Darkstone. Take a patrol squadron. Find out what the cartel is doing there. If possible, gather intelligence. But do not engage unless you have no choice. Understood? Kate nodded. Understood, sir. Her squadron consisted of 12 soldiers. Zara had requested to serve under Kate's command and was part of the team. So was a demolitions expert named Kyle, the same young Drakthar who had questioned her decisions during the academy exercise. He had changed since then. He had learned to trust her. They traveled to Darkstone in 2 assault shuttles. The journey took 8 hours. Kate spent the time reviewing intelligence reports and checking equipment. She knew this mission could go wrong in 100 different ways. Darkstone appeared on the view screen as a dead rock floating in space. The mining colony had been abandoned 20 years ago when the ore ran out. Now it was perfect for criminals who wanted to hide from the law. Scans showed multiple structures on the surface, all heavily fortified. Kate studied the scan results. Automated defense turrets, guard towers, energy barriers. The cartel had turned this place into a fortress. But something else caught her attention. Life signs. Lots of them. More than a pirate base should have, she made a decision. We go in quiet. No shooting unless they shoot first. I want to know what they are doing down there. The shuttles landed 5 kilometers from the main compound. The squad moved out under cover of darkness. The moon had no atmosphere, so they wore sealed suits. Their boots left prints in the gray dust as they approached the target. Kate led them through a maze of old mining tunnels. The passages were dark and narrow. Their helmet lights cut through the blackness like knives. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every corner could be a trap. They reached the compound wall without being detected. Zara used her technical skills to disable a section of the security system. They slipped through a maintenance hatch and found themselves inside. What Kate saw made her blood run cold. This was not just a pirate base. It was a slave camp. Dozens of people were being held in cages. They were thin and dirty. Many were injured. Kate recognized species from across the galaxy: Vorthans, Chitons, even a few humans. The prisoners were being forced to work in illegal mining operations. Guards walked among them with weapons, ready to punish anyone who moved too slowly or complained. Kate had seen cruelty before, but this was different. This was systematic. This was evil. She opened a secure channel to Captain Hart. "Sir, this is not just an outpost. They have prisoners, civilians. We need to get them out." Hart's voice came back tense. "How many prisoners?" "At least 60. Maybe more." There was a long pause. Then Hart spoke again. "Can you hold position for 3 hours?" "I am sending reinforcements. But Kate, if you are discovered before then, you need to pull out. Do not risk your team." Kate looked at the prisoners in their cages. Some of them were children. "Understood, sir. We will hold position." The next 3 hours were the longest of Kate's life. Her squad hid in the shadows while guards patrolled past them. They watched the prisoners suffer and could do nothing. Every instinct screamed at Kate to act, to free them now. But she knew that would get everyone killed. Finally, reinforcements arrived. 2 full platoons dropped from orbit. Captain Hart had sent everyone he could spare. The assault began with precision. Kate's squad attacked from inside while the reinforcements hit from outside. The cartel guards were caught between 2 forces. The fighting was intense but short. Most of the guards surrendered when they realized they were surrounded. A few tried to fight and were quickly neutralized. Within an hour, the compound was secure. Kate went to the cages. She started opening them one by one. The prisoners stared at her with hollow eyes. They had been here so long they did not believe rescue was real. Kate spoke to them in a gentle voice. "You are safe now. We are taking you home." One of the prisoners was a young Vorthan girl. She could not have been more than 10 years old. Her name was Sela. She had been taken from her family 3 months ago and forced to work in the mines. She was so weak she could barely stand. Kate knelt beside her. "Can you walk?" Sela tried. Her legs gave out. Kate caught her before she fell. Without hesitation, Kate lifted the girl and carried her on her back. The extraction point was 2 kilometers away. Kate walked the entire distance with Sela holding on to her. Zara walked beside them. She watched Kate carry the child and said nothing for a long time. Finally she spoke. "In my culture, we would leave the weak behind. Resources are precious, but you humans see things differently." Kate adjusted her grip on Sela. "Maybe that is why we will never understand each other. We do not measure worth by strength. We measure it by the fact that every life has value, especially the ones who cannot fight for themselves." Zara's mandibles clicked softly. Perhaps that is not a weakness after all. The rescue made news across the coalition. Kate became a symbol of what the fleet stood for. Reporters wanted to interview her. Politicians wanted to use her story. But Kate avoided the attention. She was just doing her job. But the rescue also painted a target on her back. Kraxos, the leader of the Bloodfang cartel, learned about the human who had disrupted his operation. He sent a message to Kate through encrypted channels. It was short and brutal. "You cost me prisoners and credits, human. For that, I am going to make you suffer. I am going to hunt you and everyone you care about. You should have stayed out of my business." Captain Hart showed Kate the message. His face was grim. "Kraxos does not make empty threats. You need to be careful." Kate read the message again. Then she deleted it. "If he wants to find me, let him try. I am not hiding." Hart studied her for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "You remind me why I joined the fleet. You have courage, Kate. But remember, courage without wisdom gets people killed." 2 weeks later, intelligence reported that Kraxos was planning something big. He was gathering forces and acquiring military weapons. The Fourth Fleet prepared for the worst. Captain Hart called Kate to the bridge. When she arrived, his expression told her everything she needed to know. The war was coming. The mission to infiltrate the Blood Fang cartel's stronghold was suicide. Everyone knew it. But Kate volunteered anyway. Intelligence needed to know what Kraxos was planning. The only way to get that information was to go deep into pirate territory and steal it. Captain Hart assembled a small team. Kate would lead. Zara would handle technical systems. Kyle would provide heavy weapons support if things went wrong. A human tech specialist named Danny Chen would hack their computers. 4 specialists for a mission that would normally require 20. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would pose as freelance mercenaries looking for work. The cartel was always recruiting. If they could get inside, they could access the central command network and download everything. Then they would disappear before anyone noticed. Kate spent 2 weeks preparing. She memorized pirate codes and protocols. She learned how criminals talked and acted. She studied recordings of cartel operations until she could predict their behavior. She knew one mistake would expose them. One slip would get them killed. They traveled to Frostholm, an ice moon deep in lawless space. The cartel operated openly here. There was no law, no rules, only power. Their shuttle landed at a rundown spaceport where ships came and went without questions. Kate led her team into a cantina that stank of alien alcohol and violence. The room went quiet when they entered. Eyes watched them from dark corners. Hands moved toward weapons. This was not a place for honest people. They found a table and waited. After 20 minutes, a scarred chiton approached. His name was Vex. He was a cartel recruiter. His job was to find new blood for Kraxos's army. He studied Kate and her team with cold eyes. "You look like soldiers," Vex said. His voice clicked and rasped. "But soldiers do not come to places like this. So either you are stupid or you are looking for work." Kate met his gaze without flinching. "We are looking for work. We heard the Blood Fang pays well." Vex laughed. It sounded like metal scraping metal. "The Blood Fang pays the living. The dead earn nothing. You sure you want this?" Kate nodded. "We are sure." Vex asked them questions. Hard questions designed to expose imposters. Where had they served? Who had they killed? What made them turn to piracy? Kate answered every question perfectly. She had prepared for this. She knew what to say and how to say it. But Vex was not easily convinced. He gave them a test. A cargo ship was arriving in 2 hours. They would help hijack it. If they succeeded, they were in. If they failed or refused, they were dead. Kate agreed. She had no choice. The team prepared for the hijacking. It went smoothly. Too smoothly. Kate realized this was not just a test of skill. It was a test of morals. Vex wanted to see if they would hurt innocent people. When the cargo ship surrendered, Kate made sure no one was killed. She told Vex the crew was worth more alive as hostages. Vex accepted that explanation. He seemed satisfied. 3 days later, Kate and her team were brought to the main stronghold. The stronghold was carved into a mountain of ice. It was massive. Hundreds of pirates lived here. The halls were filled with stolen goods and weapons. Kate saw technology from a dozen different worlds, all of it illegal, all of it deadly. For 4 days, Kate and her team worked for the cartel. They ran missions. They followed orders. They gathered information while pretending to be loyal. Every night, Danny downloaded data from the network. Slowly, they built a picture of Kraxos's plans. Then everything went wrong. On the 5th day, all new recruits were summoned to the main hall. Kraxos himself was there. Kate had seen pictures of the warlord, but they did not capture his presence. He was enormous. His black scales looked like armor. His eyes burned with intelligence and cruelty. Kraxos stood on a platform above the crowd. Beside him, bound and beaten, was a coalition pilot. The pilot had been captured 3 days ago when his scout ship was shot down. Now he knelt with his hands tied behind his back. Kraxos addressed the new recruits. His voice was deep and cold. "Loyalty must be proven. Words mean nothing. Actions mean everything. Each of you will prove your loyalty now. You will execute this coalition dog." Kate's stomach turned to ice. One by one, recruits stepped forward. One by one, they shot the pilot. But the pilot was not dead. The shots were not fatal. Each recruit was meant to wound him, to make him suffer, to prove they had no mercy. Kate's mind raced. If she refused, the mission failed. They would be exposed and killed. But if she shot the pilot, an innocent man died because of her. Everything she believed in told her to refuse. Everything she had been taught about being a soldier told her to complete the mission. Then her turn came. She stepped forward. The pilot looked up at her. His face was bloody. His eyes were swollen. But something flickered in them. Recognition. He had seen coalition broadcasts. He knew who she was. For 1 second, their eyes met. In that second, Kate made a choice. Not the choice of a soldier. The choice of a human. She drew her weapon. But instead of pointing it at the pilot, she turned and fired at the guards. The hall erupted into chaos. Her team moved instantly. Zara threw a smoke grenade. Kyle opened fire with his heavy weapon. Danny triggered the explosives they had hidden during their reconnaissance. Kate cut the pilot's bonds. He could barely stand. She grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the exit. Bullets filled the air around them. The walls exploded with impacts. Kate fired back while dragging the pilot forward. They fought through corridors filled with pirates. Every turn brought more enemies. Kyle took a hit to his shoulder but kept firing. Zara hacked security doors to slow their pursuers. Danny guided them through the stronghold using maps he had memorized. They reached their hidden shuttle in the landing bay. Kate threw the pilot inside. The team piled in after him. Kate took the controls and launched. The shuttle screamed out of the bay as automated defenses opened fire. The hull took hits. Warning alarms blared. Kate pushed the engines to maximum. Behind them, pirate fighters launched in pursuit. The shuttle was fast, but not fast enough. They would never make it to Coalition space. Then Kate looked at the wounded pilot. He was dying. The torture had done too much damage. Without medical treatment in the next hour, he would not survive. She had a choice. Run for Coalition space and let him die, or divert to a neutral station and risk capture. Kate changed course. She headed for the nearest trading station. Zara looked at her in shock. That station is neutral. They will not protect us. The cartel can follow us there. Kate's voice was steady. He dies if we do not stop. I am not letting that happen. They landed at the station with minutes to spare. Kate carried the pilot to the medical bay. She used every credit she had to pay for his treatment. The doctors worked for 2 hours. When they finally emerged, they said the pilot would live, but the delay had cost them. Intelligence reports came in. Kraxos had mobilized his entire fleet. He was not just hunting Kate anymore. He was planning a major attack. The target was New Haven, a coalition colony with 50 million people. Kate contacted Captain Hart. She told him everything. Hart's face was grim when he heard the news. Get back here as fast as you can. We are going to war. As the shuttle jumped to hyperspace, Kate received a personal message. It was from Kraxos. His face filled the screen. His expression was rage and amusement mixed together. You cost me a prisoner and exposed my base, human. For that, I am going to burn New Haven to ash while you watch. And when I am done, I am going to hunt everyone you ever cared about. You should have killed that pilot when you had the chance. Now millions will die because of your weakness. Kate looked at the screen. Her voice was cold and hard when she replied. You made a mistake, Kraxos. You threatened people I care about. That means I am going to stop you, no matter what it takes. She cut the transmission. Zara spoke from behind her. He will come with everything he has. This will be the biggest battle the sector has seen in years. Kate nodded. I know. But we are going to be ready. The shuttle raced toward New Haven. Behind them, across the void of space, a pirate armada began to move. War was coming, and Kate Morrison would be at the center of it. The Bloodfang cartel fleet arrived at New Haven like a storm of metal and death. Over 200 ships dropped out of hyperspace, fighters, cruisers, stolen military vessels. all of them bristling with weapons, all of them hungry for destruction. The Fourth Fleet stood between the pirates and the planet. 30 coalition ships against 200. The odds were impossible. But Captain Hart had made his decision. They would not retreat. They would not abandon 50 million people to their fate. Kate stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn. Around her, officers worked at their stations. Their faces were calm, but their eyes showed the truth. They all knew this might be their last day. Captain Hart activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice filled every ship. We stand between chaos and civilization. We stand between tyranny and freedom. Today we show the galaxy what it means to serve. Today we hold the line. For New Haven, for the Coalition, for everyone who cannot fight for themselves. The battle began. The pirate fleet rushed forward in a swarm. They had numbers. They had firepower. They thought they had already won. The Coalition fleet met them with disciplined fire. Every shot counted. Every ship had to make a difference. Kate commanded a fighter squadron from the Valiant Dawn. She led 12 pilots into the heart of the battle. They flew through a storm of laser fire and explosions. Ships died around them. Friends died. But they kept fighting. The battle raged for hours. The Coalition forces were skilled and brave, but the numbers were against them. Slowly the pirates pushed them back. Slowly the defense weakened. If something did not change, the fleet would break. And then New Haven would burn. Kate studied the tactical display. She looked for weaknesses, for patterns, for anything that could turn the tide. Then she saw it. The Bloodmaw, Kraxos's flagship. The massive dreadnought hung back from the main fight. It was directing the battle like a puppeteer controlling strings. Kate opened a channel to Captain Hart. Sir, I have an idea. If we take out the Bloodmaw, the cartel loses command and control. The fleet will fall apart. Hart's voice was strained. He was fighting his own battles on the bridge. How do you plan to reach it? That ship is surrounded by fighters. Kate took a breath. I will board it. Take a strike team straight to Kraxos. Cut off the head and the body dies. There was silence on the channel. Then Hart spoke quietly. That is a suicide mission. Kate looked at the planet below. 50 million people, children, families, people who had no idea their lives hung by a thread. Maybe. But it is our only chance. Hart was quiet for a long moment. Then he gave his approval. Do it. And Kate. Good luck. Kate assembled her team. Zara volunteered immediately. So did Kyle, despite his wounded shoulder. Danny Chen insisted on coming to hack the flagship systems. A dozen other soldiers stepped forward. All of them knew the odds. None of them hesitated. They loaded into a modified assault shuttle. The hull was reinforced. The engines were overcharged. It was built to punch through enemy lines. But it was not built to survive. Kate took the controls. She aimed the shuttle at the Bloodmaw and accelerated. Behind them, the Fourth Fleet provided covering fire. Ships died to give Kate's team a chance. Good people sacrificed themselves so the mission could succeed. The shuttle screamed through space. Pirate fighters swarmed around them. Kate dodged and weaved. The hull took hits. Warning lights flashed. But she kept going. Nothing would stop her now. They crashed into the Bloodmaw's hangar bay. The shuttle tore through the bay doors and slammed into the deck. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. The team poured out before the wreckage stopped moving. Pirates filled the hangar. Kate and her team opened fire. The battle was close and brutal. No room for tactics, just survival. They fought their way through waves of enemies. Every meter was paid for in blood. Soldiers fell. Kate lost count of how many. She just kept moving forward, toward the bridge, toward Kraxos. That was all that mattered now. They reached the bridge access corridor. The doors were sealed. Danny worked on the controls while the others held the position. Pirates poured in from both sides. The team formed a circle and fought back to back. The doors opened. Kate rushed through with Zara and Kyle. The rest of the team stayed behind to hold the corridor. Kate knew she would probably never see them again. But there was no time for goodbyes. The bridge was massive. And standing in the center of it was Kraxos. The warlord had dismissed his guards. He wanted to face Kate alone. He was enormous. His claws were like swords. His scales were like armor. He looked at Kate and smiled. You are persistent. I will give you that. But you are also a fool. You could have lived a long life. Instead, you chose to die here for people who will never remember your name." Kate raised her weapon. She knew she could not beat him in a fair fight. He was faster and stronger, but she had to try. "You are wrong. They will remember. Not because I am special, but because what I represent matters. Strength is not just about power. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. You will never understand that, and that is why you have already lost." Kraxos roared and charged. Kate opened fire. The bullets hit his scales and bounced off. He was on her in seconds. His claws tore through her armor. Pain exploded across her chest. She rolled away and kept firing. Zara and Kyle attacked from the sides. Kyle's heavy weapon pounded Kraxos with fire. Zara used her speed to strike and retreat. But Kraxos was too strong. He knocked Kyle across the room. He caught Zara and threw her into a console. Kate was alone now. Blood ran down her side. Her vision blurred. Kraxos advanced on her, confident in his victory. "This is what happens to those who oppose me. This is what happens to humans who think they can be warriors." Kate's mind flashed back to the canyon, to the injured razorback cub, to Instructor Garn's salute, to every moment that had led her here. She had spent her whole life being told humans were weak. That caring was a flaw. That compassion had no place in war, but she knew the truth now. Those things were not weaknesses. They were what made humans strong. Kraxos lunged. Kate saw the pattern in his attack. The overconfidence, the pride that made him predictable. She feinted left and rolled right. His claws missed by inches. She came up behind him and emptied her weapon into his back. The warlord roared in pain and collapsed. Blood spread across the deck. His eyes met Kate's one last time. Then they went dark. Danny reached the main computer. He broadcast a surrender order to the entire cartel fleet using Kraxos's command codes. Some ships obeyed. Others scattered into hyperspace. The battle was over. Kate collapsed. Her wounds were too severe. Zara and Kyle carried her back to the shuttle. They flew through the debris field toward the Valiant Dawn. Kate's vision faded in and out. She looked at the planet below. New Haven. Safe. 50 million lives saved. She thought about the journey that brought her here. From a cadet mocked for her compassion to a leader who changed everything. Every choice had mattered. Every act of mercy had built to this moment. Medical teams were waiting when they landed. Kate was rushed to surgery. For 3 days she hovered between life and death, but humans are stubborn. She survived. When she woke, Captain Hart was sitting beside her bed. He smiled when he saw her eyes open. "Welcome back, Captain Morrison." Kate blinked in confusion. "Captain?" Hart nodded. "You have been promoted. The Coalition awarded you the Star of Valor. But more than that, you changed everything. Your actions at New Haven have been broadcast across the galaxy. People are talking about what humans did, about what you represent." Over the following months, Kate learned just how much had changed. Vorthon Academy began teaching courses on human military philosophy. The emphasis on compassion and the value of every life became core principles in Coalition training. Humans were no longer seen as weak. They were respected as warriors who fought with both strength and heart. A year later, Kate returned to Kratos Prime. She had been invited to speak at the Academy graduation ceremony. When she arrived, Instructor Garn met her personally. The old warrior looked at her with something like pride. "I knew you would do great things, but even I did not imagine this. You have changed how we think about war, about strength, about what it means to be a warrior." Kate stood before the graduating cadets. They were young and eager. They came from 100 different worlds, and they all looked at her with respect. She thought about what to say, about the lessons she had learned. Then she spoke from her heart. "You are about to become soldiers. You will face impossible choices. You will be tested in ways you cannot imagine. And in those moments, you will have to decide what kind of warrior you want to be. You can follow orders blindly, or you can understand what is truly worth fighting for." I learned that lesson from an injured predator in a canyon, from prisoners in cages, from a pilot who deserved mercy. Every time I chose compassion over cruelty, I became stronger, not weaker. Remember that. Strength is not the absence of compassion. It is the courage to act on it. The cadets listened in silence. When Kate finished, they rose as one and saluted her. It was a moment she would never forget. After the ceremony, Kate walked through the Crimson Waste one more time. She followed the same canyon where she had found the injured cub. She did not expect to find anything, but as she rounded a bend, she stopped. A massive razorback stood on the rocks above her, fully grown, powerful. Its fur was dark and thick, but on its leg Kate could see a scar. The scar,